enter the stars, and this literally happens like every single time, right? So we're going to continue on here, you guys. We're going to call this part 2. And sorry for the technical difficulties. We're just going to go ahead and have the chat here on YouTube and continue on with this. Now, I had some notes pulled up, and I did tell you that hump is the bell curve. That's what it is, okay? Let me show it to you right now because this is important. The hump is the sine wave. It's Baal. This is why there's all this talk of the Arch of Baal and so on and so forth. Let me pull up the chat here and make sure you guys found your way back over here. Appreciate you guys having patience and hanging in there with me on this. So here we are, live Forrest Hump Day Part 2. And I think I was just going to show you guys actually the tweet that was sent out with regards to headlines from Russia, basically calling Donald Trump Forrest Gump. They call him Forrest Trump. Let's pull this up. Make sure you guys have a minute to come in, and then we'll continue on with this, okay? Let's see. Here's the chat. Chat should be up. Very good. All right. So this is the sine wave. Let's see what that looks like. Wow, look at this Google doodle here. Pretty neat. It could be decoded. Kind of gotten away from decoding the Google Doodles. Something maybe I'll come back to. Make sure you guys are up and running on the chat. Cool. See some of you guys popping in here. Very good. Okay, and I'll be back in the chat in a minute. I see Robert Gordy. Behold, he cometh with the clouds. Yeah, this happens like every single time. So this is the sine wave, the sine curve. Let's look at images of it. This is the UMP. It's the beast realm, okay? It's the bell curve. Now, if you look at this, this is the sine wave. This is also time. This is how time is depicted. See, here's the hump. This is the sine wave. Now, what this represents is linear. This is linear time. Whereas other waves of, whereas outside the realm of time, we have like the torus field, which is like God, and that is eternal, okay? But we're locked in, basically this is a piece or a fraction or a portion of the torus wave, a limited portion. It's almost like eternity is like a 10-speed bike, and the sine wave is a 3-speed bike. That's the best way that I could describe it. We're kind of locked in very finite dimensions, limitations, and all these things. So when they talk about the hump, this is what they're talking about. Now, in part 1 that we got cut off on, we went and told you how the umbilical stump, right? That's not an accident that it's worded that way, which is what your umbilical cord is called when it's cut off. It's your belly button. It's the stump. That represents the tree being cut off. You being cut off from the tree of life, entering the beast tree. We're in now the forest, right? It's interesting that we're talking about Forrest Stump, because that's what it is. Okay, Forrest Gump was born basically as a stump. He got the shaft with life because he wasn't as bright as everyone, but what they show is how he conquered all that and rose above it. So this is the sine wave, this is the hump. Now, it's no accident that sine also is sin. This is sin. We're locked in sin. We're locked in time. We're locked in the sine wave. See how all this fits together now? We're locked in this depiction. This is the graph showing what sin is. You're actually looking at sin right now, even though it's called the sine wave, okay? Now let's dig a little deeper into this. Let me go in the chat. Glad all you guys could come back with us today. Let's see here. Let's go back over to this. Now you know what the bell curve is, because the sine wave is the bell curve. Let's look at pictures of that. Bell curve, which is Baal, B-A-A-L. This is why they worship the Baal. See how this is the sine wave? It's just a piece of the sine wave. Now let's get into calculus, because calculus is all about the area under the curve, right? It's probably why I didn't do too well in calculus. I didn't like it. It just felt creepy to me. Trying to, everyone was creepy in calculus class. And that's when I quit trying to be a civil engineer in college, because I couldn't get through the calculus courses, right? So this is the bell curve, okay? So this is Baal. This is the arch. See how it all looks the same? Baal arch. All the same thing, you guys. Here's the arch. This is the bell curve, the arch, okay? This is sin, and they worship it because they are kings here in this realm, whereas we are slaves. The meek are the slaves. They are the kings. So we're locked in time. What is the way out? The way out is the narrow gate, the same way we came in. What is the narrow gate we came in on? The umbilical cord with the manna coming from our mother. What's the way out? It is when people have near-death experiences, described like a funnel-looking thing as they start to go back to heaven. It's like basically a twisted cloud. That is the way out, and it's through Jesus Christ. It's the only way. Now, I took some more notes here because I noticed that the word naval, like describing like water, like a naval academy or naval fleet, looks exactly like the word navel that's on your belly button. That's called your umbilical cord. It's called the navel. Well, why would they do that? Because you just came out of the water, the amniotic fluid. It's all about marine, right? Now, these plays on words go on forever and ever. I could do a show for hours talking about these plays on words. The amniotic fluid being like you got amnesia, right? Washed, your memory washed away as you're born into this beast realm. And so who is Trump? How does Trump fit into the UMP and everything we just talked about? Well, I believe that Trump represents the rebirth of America. I'm going to repeat that a couple times because this is a huge concept. Whether it's good or bad, he is rebirthing America. That's what he's doing, making America great again. Notice the again. It's almost like remembering again, repeating, right? Going back to what America was. And look at exactly what's happening right now. America is experiencing birth pangs of division because for so long they have indoctrinated all the most recent generations into a new way of thought, a very liberal way of thought. Liberalism has led even as far back as George Bush. He was a very liberal Republican president, and this country was sold out a long time ago. So now Trump's coming in and made a lot of executive orders to try and reverse all this, right? Well, it's causing birth pangs, okay? Rebirth, birth pangs. And these are no accidents. I see a lot of you in here. I see Skeeto Punk. Hey, it's Sarah Says, Murphy B Ninja. Thanks you guys for showing up. All right, so let's take a look at this. This is the headline from Russia comparing Donald Trump to Forrest Gump. Let's see if this loads. And we will play this here. So I want you guys to see this. This kind of stuff happens all the time on this channel. We're talking about something and the next day or a few days later, it's headlines. And those of you that have been on this channel know this. It's not me making it up or trying to say that I'm cool because the headlines are following me. They're not following me. It's just like the Holy Spirit's giving us a peek behind the veil. And it's all to glorify God, but people don't see it that way. They want to immediately accuse this channel of being, trying to assume that I'm some special person. No, it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with God working through people like me to try to show people the truth. Now, here's the Russian headline, Force Trump. And let's see if we can get this to play. Let's see here. taking a minute. I'm going to play this for you. Look at this. It's got the hourglass. So hourglass represents time, right? We just talked all about that right now. The sands of time. Why do you think they're showing us this? Well, what was in the dump trucks? What was in the dump trucks? In the dump trucks was sand. Okay? Let's listen to this real quick. The dump trucks that were surrounding Trump Towers, several occasions. I think at one of his speeches, and of course the inauguration, he had dump trucks filled with sand.
Well, the Russian press continues to be very positive about Donald Trump. This is the headline in Moscow comes to warrants today.
Okay, let's listen to this. This is Russian headlines.
The article criticizes Hollywood stars for criticizing America's new president. It starts like this. Do you remember the old Soviet joke that an American meets a Russian abroad? The American says, "You got no freedom of speech in the USSR." In America, anyone can go up to the White House and shout, "Reagan is an idiot." Yes. The Russian replies, "So what?"
So, getting the gist of this, sorry for it skipping so much. I got like 0 bandwidth here, you guys. Everything goes slow out here. I do not have very good internet at all, which makes it very hard to live stream and play anything at the same time. But you get the gist of it. Here is a headline, "Force Trump." They're making fun of the people in Hollywood stars who were slamming Trump because Trump came from them. And I've been saying this all along. So why are they fighting? Why is everyone fighting with each other? Because the whole thing is scripted. It's to create division. It's to create these birth pangs, to create this anarchy, this feeling of unsettledness. This is why everyone's so upset about the election. There's no peace right now. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and close this because it's just not gonna play. There is no peace right now, and that's done on purpose. They wanted this. Okay, everyone thinks everything's so great under Trump, but it's not. Everybody's divided. There's a lot of emotion and anger about everything. Now I take a different perspective. I take a step back and I don't give in and feed into all that emotion because I know that that's exactly what they want. They are manufacturing this emotion. Okay? Birth pangs. They want this anarchy. Now what's the reason? Well, a lot of it is to keep on fueling this war. Okay? As you guys know, the war is not going to stop under Trump. In fact, he believes that terrorists are real and all this is real when it's really not. So right there, I don't buy into everything he's doing. Yeah, he's going to throw us some bones. He's going to make us feel good about voting for him. But in the end, people are still going to die. Children are still dying by the dozens as we bomb people. We're going to hear about some of it, but make no mistake. You're only hearing about 5 to 10% of what's really happening there. The little bit that leaks through is what you're hearing. But really there's dozens and dozens and hundreds more that are dying over and above what we are hearing. And again, abortion continues on in this country. That's never going to change. Until those two things change, until they admit that there is no war, until Trump admits to what he said about Obama funding ISIS, and now that he's president, who's funding ISIS now? Do you see the hypocrisy? So until those things change, I just see this for exactly what it is. A person that fooled everybody. And yeah, we're going to get some concessions, and that's all fine and dandy, but never ever give up your principles. Principles of what you believe in. Murder, death, and all those things. Don't let them let you justify it just because they throw you a few bones. Okay, that's what this is all about. So, what else do we have here? I'm looking in the. You guys go ahead and pop in the chat and let me know if there's anything you want to talk about before I get off of here. I guess we just broke that up into a part 1 and a part 2 because of technical difficulties. Here's some good news. that Trump's going to do, or the House Republicans are trying to kill Obama's Social Security gun ban. I guess based on, we talked about this in a previous video, that they were basically going to say that you're unfit to have a gun based on you. Wow, I'm looking at a squirrel outside standing on a post. So he's about to jump on the roof. Wow, pretty cool. Anyway, based on you not being able to handle your own affairs. And they wrote that right into the law. And they did this on purpose because they set us up. Okay. They basically said, we're going to give you we're going to give you money. We're going to give you benefits. We're going to give you Social Security. We're going to give you disability. We're going to give these things to you. And basically you're going to think it's like free, or you're going to think you paid into it. So they were approving all these people for Social Security and disability. And I know many of these people. So my friends, thousands of dollars a month of benefits. And I was thinking to myself, where's this money coming from? And how can they get away with just giving away all this money? Yeah, it's Social Security, but people are drawing on Social Security disability at like 35, 40 years old, and for life. How are they able to maintain this? Who's paying for this? And then it all clicked when he got a letter in the mail asking him if he owned a weapon. I was like, oh, now this particular friend of mine was not a person that was into guns, but imagine if you were like a veteran or something, and you get this letter in the mail asking if you own a weapon. And let's say you're a gun buff and you love guns, you have a gun safe, and all of a sudden your right to own those weapons is now under threat because you've accepted Social Security disability, you see. So anyway, according to this, they're thinking about, or they're trying to kill the anti-gun regulation. It talks about it in here. Based on you not being able to handle your own affairs, having to have a beneficiary, because this is all part of the system of Social Security. And this is for mental disability. Let me qualify this, okay? This isn't just for physical disability. This is a mental disability. So if you go to, they make you go to a psychiatrist, they make you fill prescription medications, okay, for mental disabilities, and which is, by the way, the easiest to get approved for. Mental disability is the easiest to get approved for because no one can prove that you're not. It's easier, you know, with, what do they call it? Workers' comp. They can see if you have a broken bone, but if you have like pain, or if you have a mental disability, no one can prove that. So they automatically approve most people, okay? Especially if you have some kind of nervous breakdown or something. This guy that I knew was a great actor. He pretended that he was unfit for work, but yet we would go fishing all the time and he was fine. But then a weird thing happened. He acted it out so well, he actually really did start going crazy. And this is what they want. They want you part of their beast system. They want you part of their slave class, dependent on them for your medications. If you don't take your medications, you go through withdrawals, you get upset, you're beholden to your doctor. So now they've it's like you're in an outdoor prison, because like that's why they arrest people when we live in a police state where they're looking to always fine you for something or arrest you, because then it puts you in the system, which pays for everybody, right? Because you got to go to court, you got to get a counselor, you have to take classes. It employs everybody, and it's no different with the B system in terms of the Social Security and disability stuff. They love it because then you become their slave. They have you under control. You'll do whatever they say to get your medication, right? And it's sad, you guys, because it's the truth. We are slaves. What's the best thing you can do? Not be a slave anymore. How can you not be a slave? You have to take one foot in front of the other and decide, and wake up one day and decide you're not going to be their puppet. Decide you're not going to be a slave to them. You're not going to be dependent on anyone except yourself and God and Christ. That's how you trump this, no pun intended. And then on the other side, when you look up and you wake up in the morning, you'll be able to say, I am my own person. I am not a drug. I'm not an antipsychotic. I'm not an opiate. I'm not a pain medication. I'm a person. And no one can control me except Jesus Christ. And when you make that choice, then the whole world opens up to you. Then all of your vices go away. All of your hang-ups, all the things that control you begin to fall away. And this is what we need to do. And I know it's hard for some of you because maybe you've been doing this for years, 20 years, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Deep down in your heart, you know that I'm telling you the truth. Maybe you're one of those people that needed to hear this morning, okay? And it is possible, and it takes time, and it's going to be painful, and it's going to be hard. But the days are coming when they're going to use the puppet strings of the control they have over you, whatever that may be, whether or not you are addicted to anything that you have to take every single day, that you feel like you have to have. They will use that to control you. It's already hard enough to make sure you have food and shelter. Those are already two things they could use to control us, but guess what? It's a lot harder to control food and shelter than it is to pull the puppet strings of a medication that you're on or something of that nature. And that's the difference. Because you can always find food, you can grow food, you can forage for food, you can make a shelter, even though they are tightening the rules on that as well. You know, they're making it this Agenda 21 so that you cannot live off the land, so that you cannot carve out an existence somewhere because it belongs to someone else. It's private property. Or you're not on the grid, so you get penalized for that. So, but we don't want to add to the slavery by dumping a bunch of other stuff on top that we don't need. Okay. So God bless you guys. Pray to the Holy Spirit and to Christ for strength. That's the only person that can help you through times like this. And glad you guys could all make it. Sorry for the interruption in the show. This is what they do. They don't want us going on the website. They don't want it, you guys. That's pretty clear at this point. I think Real Talk Live or Underground World News is going to be on my channel this week, this Friday night. So I'll be glad to have you guys all over on my channel for Underground World News. Love you too, April. Thanks, Sherry. The Earth is evacuated. No forests on Earth. Yeah, you know, the big forests of ancient times are gone. And what we're seeing are basically shrubs. That's what they mean by no forest on a flat Earth. I finally clicked for me. There was much more majestic trees that reached all the way to the heavens. Okay, they're talked about in the book of Ezekiel 31. And then when they fell into all the valleys and rivers of the earth. It even says that in there. They're very specific about that tree. And some people try to say it's an analogy of the Pharaoh. Yeah, you know, no. You were the solar guy you talked about before, Casey asked John. Yeah, it's on my website. It's on the banner on my website. It's also here on YouTube. Definitely, if you own your home and you're already on the grid and you don't really have plans to get off the grid, you can stabilize and actually save money by putting solar on. Okay, that's what that's all about. They do have cash. You can pay cash and get off the grid, and they'll set you up a basic system for a lot cheaper. If you have some land, you want to throw up some panels, these are the guys that are going to do it. The guy that I'm working with is a truther. He's on this. He's here on this channel. He's a subscriber and a truther. Okay, installer's a truther. So you know, there's different ways to get solar, but it's cost effective and it makes sense. It lowers your monthly payment. If you have a county job or state job, and you own your home, and you're gonna be around for a while, and you have dreams of getting off the grid, but you pretty much know over the next 20 years this is where you're gonna be. You're gonna be in the home that you've mortgaged. This is exactly the thing for you, because the energy costs are doubling every 10 years. I looked at some graphs, and electricity bills have doubled every 10 years. So with solar, even from day one, it's 30% lower than your electric bill. And then over time, that just keeps going up because everyone else's energy prices are going up and yours are staying consistent. So check that out. Call the number. Even if you have questions, check it out. If you're some kind of developer or someone who builds houses, definitely this is the thing for you. This is drop bottom prices, but with American-made equipment. So if you're a Trump supporter, this is everything that you'd be into. Okay, making America great again. You know, this is what these guys do. His name's Elias. That's the guy. But I think the 800 number that you call, you're going to speak to another person. And Elias will put together like the shading. It's a shading thing. It's really cool. Puts together this shading profile. So basically, it shows you how the sun moves through the sky, exactly where they're going to put the panels on the roof. They should do a cost estimation. The whole thing is top shelf. Blessing TX7 says, I can barely afford electricity. Yeah, you know, and that's part of the thing about solar that helps because it's going to lower your bill by 30%. So, I mean, again, it's kind of specific. You have to kind of own your home. And you don't even really need to plan on being there for a while because it increases the price of your home. So you can sell the home and the system with the home, and it basically credits you off the price of the house. So you're going to basically get more money for your house because you've got solar on it. So, you know, these are all good things. They can do tile. Shoni was asking. Absolutely. I would call the number, ask whatever questions you need to, but they definitely do tile. They can do anything you have, they can do it. These guys are really good at what they do. So what does the future hold for America in the coming days? Well, that's a good question. Kiko Land Zik has that question. Make America great. I mean, what's happening here? What is really happening? Well, what they're really doing is we're ramping up for more armed conflicts around the world. And the Trump divide is what I'll call it, is basically getting all of us pumped up and excited and patriotic again. Kind of like what happened under 9/11 with George Bush. Okay, let's have an event. Everyone's getting all patriotic and pumped up. We're gonna fill the battlefields with more men and women who want to do the right thing, and that's what all this is about. So they chose a tagline: "Make America Great Again." Right? A hero, Donald Trump. And make no mistake, he says he's going to redo the military. We're going to fight. We're going to be involved in more armed conflicts. We're all going to be put back to sleep, thinking that these armed conflicts are necessary when really they are not. And I believe this is how all this is going to go down. It's just a matter of time. I would look for increased drone strikes. I would look for increased border security. I would look for increased checkpoints and increased laws and on your rights being violated, your personal rights. I would look for an erosion of your civil rights, and you might not see it on the surface, but things are going to tighten up. But then the regulations on the corporations is going to loosen. Okay, that's what he's working on now. Okay, and it all sounds fine and dandy, but it is giving more control to the people up top who pull the strings, and less control to you. Rule of law. Okay, that's where all this is headed. See, back in the chat. And what do we have here? We have solar and we are going to put up wind power. They say the wind generators are better. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because these guys also do wind as well. So if you're interested, my friend, call the number. Doesn't hurt to call. It's free. Talk to somebody about what the possibilities are for your wind project. And as I said, this is only going to grow. Trump supports solar. I know here in Texas, they don't have a lot of utilization of electricity because for so long, electricity was so cheap in Texas. But that's changing now. Texas the electricity has gotten more expensive. In fact, yeah, the toll roads are increasing. Yes, John, here in Texas as well. They were supposed to be paid off after a certain time limit, when the time limit was up, they kept charging. And people are like, why do you kept charging when the bond is up? And they're like, because it still costs money to upkeep these toll roads. And they're like, well, that's not our fault. And people are spending literally hundreds and thousands of dollars a year on toll roads in Texas. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but if you live in the Dallas metropolitan area, you're going to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars a year for that, for toll roads. Blessing TX7 says, where's the number? It's on the banner on my YouTube page. You'll see it. You'll see the solar ad there next to my name, Enter the Stars. It's also on my website. It's also on my Twitter. It's also on my, that's where you'll find the phone number for the solar. Now, we're part of a co-op, is what they call, so we don't have access to what they call the market energy, deregulated energy. We have one choice for electricity, and that's Grayson Collin Electric, and they charge us, and it's expensive. $300 a month. $300 was my electricity bill this month. That's a lot of money. Now, everything in the house is run on electricity, but that's still a lot of money, okay? So what solar does, let's say we own this home. If we had solar, we would basically pay about $200 a month. And that would be consistent every month. It would never go up. So you save a lot of money. See how that works? That's $1,200 a year, and then over the life of it. So that's how all that works. I'm glad you guys have some interest in this, because we've got several of you have called in, and we're starting to work on some projects. So that's good. You get the 30% tax credit, which is awesome as well. 30% tax credit on the work. So you get a nice little bonus back. So anyway, what other questions do you guys have? Yeah, they bought the roads. Pretty soon those toll roads are going to turn into checkpoints. And it's tough here in Texas. You know what they do? If you don't pay your toll bill, you're treated as a criminal. They can confiscate property. They can throw you in jail. They can take you to court. You lose your license. Yes, Chaos Trains, 200 is still too much. You're absolutely right. But it's a lot better than 300. And after 20 years, you own the panels, and then your energy is free. So that's a lot of money. Let's see here. What's going on with Ubuntu? I don't know about that story, Sherry. I'll look into that. But it is Hump Day. Glad you guys came out to talk all about the UMP. Oh, yeah, because Ubuntu is like the umbilical cord in the UMP. Interesting. Maybe some decoding we could do on that. All right, guys, I think I'm probably going to start wrapping it up just in case the stream wants to go down again. And then we'll be doing a part 3. Let's see here. Too many people are in debt in this world. When do we unify? For what reason? Money. Absolutely, Murphy. I've been talking a lot about that, about debt, how we're all debt slaves. And there's something about debt. It does something to you. It's very insidious. It turns you into a victim. It turns you into a slave. Even if you're up on your debts and you're paying them consistently, you're still a slave to these entities that carry your debt. At any time, they could take and confiscate your property. They can threaten you. The threats that come at you can be overwhelming, can put you into a state of mind of a slave. Basically like an elephant tied by only a thread to a fence. You don't even know that you can break free from it. There's also a certain amount of guilt that comes along with debt. Understanding that you've made choices in your life, that you couldn't wait for something and you had to borrow it, and that you can't afford other things because you're under this cloud. And because of that, you are paying 2 and 3 times the original amount, and whatever you bought with the credit is destroyed or gone, but you still owe that debt. Can you see the insidious nature of debt? It's terrible. I had erased all my debt to zero, and my head was so clear. I was happy, and life is good, and that we should all try to keep it that way. Because once you're free from all these vices and things in your life, then you will see true happiness. You'll see freedom. Because most aren't able to feel that. We wonder why we're depressed and anxious, on edge, and we never really have that happy feeling. It's because we've got all these things hanging over our head. We don't understand because we're so far down the hole. We don't see the light, but it's not far away. And that's how I try to live my life. And so I wanted to share that with all of you guys. Let's see what else. Someone, G account says, wow, congratulations on that, Casey. That is the goal. Yes, I mean, we're all going to have times. It's always good to have a credit card if you need it for an emergency, but to live in constant credit card debt is just, it's just bad. But guess what? 90% of Americans live that way. We carry debt, we carry interest, and we never get out of the hole we're in. And then many of us file bankruptcy, and we start the whole process all over again. The rest of our life is addictions, coping with the guilt and the shame, and all of that. It's fed by the addictions, and we're just in this hamster wheel. Okay, that's the truth. Man, I'm sorry, guys, but that's the truth. And we got to snap out of it, because this is lower. It's lower level thinking to be stuck in that. All it's going to do is get you in trouble and drag you into a hole. The worldwide electric grid is here already. I believe we are all part of it just by breathing. Pretty much. Got to be on the grid. But there's ways off the grid. But few have the discipline to do it, nor do they want to give up their lifestyle to do it. I've talked about a lot on my channel. I've told you guys how there's been times in my life where I've made a lot of money, but I've just paid a bank. Could have saved $100,000 easily in my life. What could I do with that $100,000? Purchase a $50,000 or $60,000 farm with 5 to 10 acres. Use the rest of the money to build a small dwelling or some kind of a home, but not like a typical stick and frame home. Put some panels on it, some wind energy. You could be off the grid. Oh yes, Casey, but what are you going to do when you want a new Mercedes? Well, you're not going to get a new Mercedes because this is all against all that. This is against materialism. This is being off the grid, and the lifestyle is going to be different. It doesn't mean that you have to be poor. It doesn't mean that it has to be dirty, but it's yours. You pay, the only thing you owe on that is about $500 a year in taxes for the land. That's it. But it's the narrow gate. If you find it, because you're not in a metropolitan area, because you don't get to drive a new car, because there's 100 reasons why people could talk themselves out of doing that. But the people that are doing it are happy. They have their garden. They're off the grid. They're independent. They're free. And that mindset carries over into staying away from addictions, because they're like, I did all this work to be living more like God wants us to live. I'm not going to let some substance control me. I'm not going to be beholden to a powder or a pill. I can rise above that. See the difference in the mindset? That's my goal one day. I don't know if I'll get there in this lifetime, and maybe my life is just meant to be dedicated to doing this. Maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Talk to you guys, to people that will listen. Maybe I'll never have that dream, or maybe I will. I leave all that up to God. Okay? So, I'll read in the chat here. Ubuntu Liberation Movement, says Sherry. You think the thoughts you incorporate just come to you because you choose? Yes. In my life experience, what I've been through, asking God, begging God for answers on this life, and the truth that I share with you guys is what's been revealed to me of how to get off the grid, how to get out of the matrix. Not because of any Agenda 21 or of green this and green that. No, it's not about that. See, they've hijacked that, is what they've done. They've hijacked it. They want you to think in terms of their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their version of conservation and protecting the environment. But protecting the environment means harvesting the environment. Okay? What do you mean, Casey? Well, we were put in the middle of a garden with beasts so that we could have dominion over those beasts. And that means controlling the beasts and harvesting them and managing them. Okay? What happens when you let wild boars run out of control in the South? They eat everything. Any of you that live in the South know what I'm talking about. You know, it's not just that people in the South think differently than people in the North. There's a reason why people think differently, because they have different life experiences. They've had to deal with coyotes. They've had to deal with wild boars that eat everything, tear up gardens. So they have real experience about what it means to kill an animal. Whereas people in other areas that are in cities have no life experience with why an animal might have to be killed for one reason or another. They are totally disconnected from the necessity of management of the wildlife. And the elite know this. They just don't tell you. They like the division. They like for you to think it's a horrible thing to kill an animal. But when you think about it, talk to anyone in the South, they will tell you, if you don't own a gun and you're not doing your part to make sure that the deers are kept in check, because they can get diseases if the population explodes. The boar that eat everything. Now, I'm not saying to eat unclean meats. It's not what I'm saying. The Bible does say, do not judge a man by what he eats or drinks. But I just want you to know I'm not out promoting the eating of unclean meats. What I'm saying is these things need to be managed. Okay? And people that live in other areas or in big cities where they don't have a management problem have no idea what you're talking about. So it's easy for them to say, don't kill animals. Now, I have a fishing channel. I was just on it, looking at one of my old videos, and I was shocked. I went out on a lake, caught a couple fish, and cleaned them on a video camera. I had maybe 30 thumbs up and like 7 thumbs down on my video on the ratings. I was shocked. I'm like, who could thumbs down this video? It was a well-done video. I hiked out. I showed everyone how to do it, showing people how to fish. It's because people are brainwashed, because they don't live in areas where they're forced to survive on the land. Because if they did, they would know that it is almost a necessity. You cannot live on vegetables living off the land. You need protein because you are doing work. You are cutting wood. You are breaking bones. You are getting cuts and scratches. You need protein. Okay, this is the truth. Okay, and I'm not encouraging everyone to go out and get a gun and start killing things. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying we have to live in reality. We have to stop all this BS that we're being fed by the liberals and everyone. We have to stop the division too. We have to stop hating each other. We have to start. Vegetarians have to stop hating people that eat meat and vice versa. Okay. It's our right. It's our natural right to be in the land. There should be laws put in place where you can just go off the grid. They should be like whole communities of just off-grid stuff, like whole cities of just cabins, and that's your home base, and you can cruise out on like a bike or something and just live in tents. They should have like whole hundreds and thousands of acres where people can just put up a tent and hunt and grow things. And why isn't this written into our law? Because they don't want you to be free, you guys. They want to control you. They want to step in between you and God and nature. They want to put a foot in between you and God and nature, because what happens when you are in with God and nature, you learn how to depend on God, not the system, not a dollar bill. We've lost that in this country. So if Trump wants to make America great again, he could start there. Start by cutting out a big swath of land down the middle of this country. So anyone who wants to live off the grid, you're doing us a favor, because you were saving energy, right? Here's a solar panel. Here's a dwelling unit, a small dwelling unit. Go live where you want, and eat however much fish you can eat. You can't sell the fish. You can't make a business out of it, but catch what you can eat. Plain and simple. Think about this, you guys. They put limits on fish. I get that. You know why they put limits on fish? Because they charge so stinking much for you to go catch a fish. And people that go and catch their fish will catch too many fish because they figure, I just spent $300 on this trip. I'm going to catch 50 fish. And then they throw half of them away. Well, a different kind of thing happens when you're actually living off the land. You should be given a special license. When you're living off the land and you don't get to go back to a job, why are you going to catch too many fish? You're not going to, because you're expending energy that you don't need to expend. You're only going to catch however much you can eat. You are now in a symbiotic relationship with the land. You wouldn't dare catch too many fish, because what's going to happen is that same fish isn't going to be in the river tomorrow for you when you're hungry. Do you see the difference, you guys? You don't need a law telling you this is your limit on fish. You don't need it. All you need is to put that person in the cycle of God. And then they manage the land. Does this all sound familiar? Kind of sounds like the Native Americans used to do it, right? They protected the land. Why? Because they lived in it. We don't live in the land anymore. So when we spend $300 to go on a fishing trip, typically many Americans, because they're greedy, will just catch too many and they'll just throw them away. And that's why they feel like they have to put limits on this stuff. But when you're actually living in the land, you honor the land, because you want it to be there tomorrow for you and your family and your children. You're responsible with the land, and the land keeps giving back. The land is God. He keeps giving back. This is the relationship we're all missing, because we're so stuck inside of our own heads with all this liberal mumbo jumbo and these manufactured cities living off of money and jobs given to us by the serpent system and the serpent economy. That's the difference, you guys. There's plenty of land. They don't need to make all these restrictions. There's all kinds of wide open areas. You don't need much. Heck, I could live off 2 fish a day, 2 small fish a day, and graze around for other things, berries, grow tomatoes, whatever, potatoes, okay, corn. That's what the Indians did, okay? Yeah, I mean, pretty soon it's going to get to the point, as Don Parker said, they're going to make growing a plant illegal. They're going to say that it costs too many resources. Well, they've already pretty much done it. Water is so expensive, it's almost cost prohibitive to grow your own garden. That's where we're at right now. You live in California and you pay a water bill. You're going to say, why am I going to grow this garden and pay $300 a month in water and only yield $200 in produce? You're going to have that discussion with yourself. That's the truth. And it's sad, because water shouldn't cost anything. It should be free, because God produces it. It's an abomination to God for us to be charged for water. But this is how they control you. So, a lot of you have chickens. That's awesome. Fresh eggs. That's a start. It's a really good start. I don't know if you guys knew this, but an egg is the epitome. It is the gold standard for protein. Everything is measured in egg units. One egg equals 1 part of protein. It is the best form of protein you can eat. Even a better quality protein than like a steak or things that you would think are a better quality protein. Eggs are the gold standard. So you could actually live off of eggs for your protein, along with other things. So if you've got a chicken coop, you're one step in the right direction. Now, for those of you that do have a chicken coop, you understand those chickens have to be defended. Again, this goes down back to, when is it okay to kill an animal? Or let's say deter an animal from eating your chickens. If you got a hungry pack of coyotes, all of you know that if you leave those chickens unattended without a chicken coop, that the coyotes will basically eat all your chickens, as will some cats and some dogs. Okay, you have to defend them. Many of you don't know that there are many bears, lots more bears than we have now, all scattered all throughout the West Coast. Bear attacks. Bears just roam around, kill people just randomly. Okay. So let's see what else we have here. Chickens are good. Yeah, bobcats, April. Yes, bobcats will kill your chickens. So you know what I'm talking about. You might not have to kill the bobcat, but you have to protect. You have to be able to protect your chickens. You might have to have a gun, fire a shot over the head of a bobcat, make it go away. Okay. And you guys know this. Yeah, I'm preaching to the choir for some of you, but as many of you know, there are a large contingent of a lot of people that think that we're all crazy, that they just don't get it. And if it was up to them, we would just never ever harvest anything from nature. It's going to get to the point where they're going to say, "Oh, you shouldn't even kill a plant. We're all going to starve." I mean, think about this. This is where all things are all headed, like that movie Soylent Green, where they just ate themselves. Pretty soon, they're just going to say the only right we have is to really eat ourselves when we die. Soylent Green is people, right? Someone says, "Why would you eat something that's dead?" Well, then why would you eat a tomato? It's dead. When you pull it off the branch, it has life energy. And I don't want to get into a political discussion about vegetarianism but every living thing has the life force of God in it. It doesn't matter whether it's an animal or a plant. It all has the life force of God in it. Okay. All right. Feed hogs coal black and they won't eat chickens or their young pigs. Some good tips in here. Never tried that before, but pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, the politicians won't leave us alone. They're constantly putting rules on us because they're living in a different reality. They're living in a reality where they want to control all of us. So they create rules that are unrealistic. People in areas know this. They know this. The American Indians say, as long as you show gratitude to that which you kill and eat. Yeah, you give thanks, which is biblical. That's a biblical principle, Buddha girl. Absolutely. So, I got in contact with some of you guys on Facebook. Definitely feel free to reach out to me if you haven't already. And I gave you guys some instructions on how to support the website without having to make donations. So I always ask you guys, when you get off a show and you're reminded of it, please do that. Helps keep the site up. We're going to need it. We've needed it. We had our videos blocked. So then the only place to upload that is on the website. Okay. So I appreciate you guys doing that. But would be step one to prepare to get off the grid. Step one, black sheep, is to get out of debt. Step two, get off of any medications that you're on that you don't need to be on. Man up. Live independently. Once you're independent of that, start saving money. How much do you need to save? Well, at $40,000, you can buy 5 acres. It's somewhere in this country. Okay? Many of you know that you could save that in a year. Some of you are living paycheck to paycheck, and that I understand that, but how do you save $40,000 in a year? Give up some of the things you think you need, like that new car. Because what is that car doing? It's locking you into this life. It's not locking you into the life you want of being off the grid. It's locking you into this present life of debt and continued commitments financially. Maybe you might need to move into a less expensive place to live so that you can save money. Maybe it means moving in with your mother for a year to save the money. Okay, there's different ways to save $40,000 in a year for many of us. I'm not saying all of us. I'm saying for many of us. At that point, once you got $40,000 to $70,000 saved, you buy a piece of land cash. In other words, you do not mortgage it. You pay for it cash. That is your first step off the grid. You'll owe only $600 a year or less in taxes. Anyone can come up with $600 in a year. You could work at McDonald's and come up with $600 in a year. The property you build should have a wood-burning stove, so you don't need heat. You should use any extra money to put solar panels so you could be off the grid and have energy. It needs to be near a water source, so you have a well. It's free water on your land. For $100,000 cash, you can be off the grid. But how many of us have gone through that kind of money in our lives because we live in the debt mindset? We figure we'll just have someone else carry the burden and the risk. We'll just get the money when we need it and never pay anything off. That's the mindset that most of us live in. We don't know how to save money. Even though many of us have made $100,000 in 3 years or 2 years or 1 year for some of us, we don't know how to set that money aside because we're afraid. But I just showed you how to do it. I just explained to you how to do it. It's not hard. Now, I don't have the luxury of that anymore because I don't make anywhere near that kind of money now. But every day I think about the millions that I made in my former life and how I should have set some of that aside for exactly this. Because I would have it now and I could show all of you how I got it and how it runs. You see, there's a way to do it, but few find the way because we're still in the beast mode. We still want to be part of this system. We still want to be relevant. We still want to drive that car and get that girl and do this or do that, have that job, or, you know, we're beholden to this system. We never find the way out. And then our whole life passes us by and we're like, what was it all for? When we could have been so much happier being with God. So that's for those of you that are in the money right now, this is something to think about. Imagine how much of a blessing you could be if you did this. And then you started a YouTube channel and you showed people how to do it. This is my land. This is what we do. Here's my solar panel. Here's my garden. Today we're going on a hunt. Today we're going to do harvest. Today we're going to do this. Today we're going to do that. You could do a whole YouTube channel on getting off the grid. I don't think there's any channels out there that have a comprehensive getting off the grid where they show you their whole life, where they're truly off the grid, out in the woods, living off the land. Pretty soon we're not going to have that right anymore, you guys. That's coming. They're going to say everything's Agenda 21. You can't live in this area. This is an off-limit area. This is a person-free zone, is what they're going to say. As ridiculous as that sounds, you can't. Already, Antarctica's that. It's a person-free zone. You can't do anything in Antarctica. You can't eat the snow. If you eat the snow, you'll go to jail. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's because it is. Why does a government get to decide how you use the God-given land. So that's about it, you guys. Better get off of here. Let you guys get to your day. Appreciate you guys all coming out. Looks like I'm about to run out of battery anyway. Much love, and take care and be safe, you guys.